Hello, my name is Sarah Ruiz. You can find me at sarahruiz.com, and I am going to do a quick tutorial here today on how to bind not 90-degree angles, non-right angles on a quilt. This is in support of a Christmas tree skirt pattern that I have that is shaped like an octagon, and so it has several of these 135-degree angles on the outside, as well as two of these acute 72.5-degree angles where the tree skirt comes together. And so I thought I would show how to do the binding on these for anyone who's not sure. The quick and easy version is that it's very easy. It's very similar to how you would bind a normal right degree angle. And so let's get started, I guess. This will be a fairly quick and dirty tutorial, but hopefully it gets the point across. So I have a little scrap of some quilted fabric that I have and a scrap of binding. I have navy blue thread in my machine. Normally I would match my thread to my binding, but tonight I am making it a little bit different so that it is easier for you to see. So I'm going to start with this 90-degree angle, and then I'll go over to the other ones. So a 90-degree angle, I am going to assume most people have done before. What I'm going to do is stitch along here until I get about 1/4 inch from the end. I have done enough binding that I eyeball this measurement, but if you are feeling less certain, you can mark it with a pen. I call it a generous 1/4 inch seam here. As opposed to the scant 1/4 inch you sometimes use when piecing. I just find that for me personally, with the 2 1/4 inch binding that I like to use, that a generous 1/4 inch works pretty well. So I'm going to stitch up to here. So I'm getting pretty close to the edge, a couple more stitches, and then when I reach that point with the needle down, I pivot and I sew straight off the corner. And what this does is really kind of gives you a guide for the next step. So to turn this 90-degree corner, again, you're going to put the binding, pull it up this way. That stitching line really kind of helps you keep it in place, but the thing that I'm really looking for is to make sure that this makes a line, that the raw edge of my binding is lined up with the raw edge of my quilt in a straight line, and that'll be more important later when you do these other angles. Once I have that set, I am going to fold this back. You can use pins here or clips if you need. I usually just use my fingers. So I've got it folded back. You can see I have this nice little flap of fabric here that's going to help me make my mitered corner. Bring it back to my machine, and I just start right on the edge with my generous 1/4 inch seam and start going. So now you can see I'm approaching this obtuse, larger than 90-degree, 135-degree angle. I'm going to do something very similar. If you can imagine a line kind of running right here between, right in the middle of that angle, I'm going to sew until my needle is basically right on that line. If you want, you can even kind of fold your quilt in half, or you could mark this with a Hera marker or a fabric pen to give you more of a visual on where that is. So I'm going to sew to right there. And again, I'm going to eyeball this, but mark it as needed. I think that's probably pretty good. You can see the edge of my quilt right there. So again, needle down, I'm going to lift up, pivot, and sew right off the edge. And again, this is going to give me kind of that guide there to help. So when I fold it back this time, I'm doing the exact same thing as before. Even though this is not a 90-degree angle, I am folding it so that the raw edge of this binding is aligned with the raw edge of my quilt. Okay, this is a straight line. And I fold it back again, lining up the raw edge of my binding with the raw edge of my quilt. And there you go. So you can see the fold is angled a little bit differently. It's not here like it would be with a 90-degree angle, but it's angled down. But you still have this little flap. Since this angle is larger than 90 degrees, this corner angle, you have a little bit less fabric here, a little bit smaller flap, but it's still going to work just fine. And again, line it up and sew. So now I'm heading towards this acute, less than 90-degree angle, but the process is still going to be exactly the same. Again, if you want, you can fold or mark or crease the quilt right here to give you a real visual. But I'm heading for this crease. I'm going to stop sewing right there, right where my sewing line meets that middle line between the angle. A little more to go. That should be good. Needle down, pivot, and sew right off the corner. Same process as before. So again, I can now fold this back. Those stitches that I sewed off the corner give me a little bit of a guide. Again, keeping these raw edges in a straight line. Then I fold this back. And again, so this time my my little fabric flap here is bigger than it would be on a normal right angle, and it extends a little bit. You can see the edge of the quilt is here and it stands over. So there's a little more bulk in this corner when you do the binding. I would recommend that you make sure there's not a binding strip seam that falls here, because that would be not very good. It would just add a lot of bulk and make it hard to turn this corner. But you have your little triangle flap. Bring it back over here, and I sew again. And so that's really it. I have done a 90-degree angle, a 135-degree angle, and a 72.5-degree angle. So a right angle, a bigger than right angle, and a smaller than right angle. Now, of course, what you would do is press this all away from your quilt top and fold it over to the back. I do have a tutorial on my blog on how I do my binding, how I make it, and then how I attach it, and how I attach it to the back. If you are interested, you can go find that. But for the purposes of here, so yeah, once you have it folded over, then it's time to make that mitered corner on the back, and the process is really no different than on the front. You may have to do just a little bit of finagling to make sure you get a nice corner there, but as you can see, that wasn't too hard. That's my obtuse angle, and here with my sharp point. I will say, if you want to reduce bulk a little bit here, you can trim, you know, just the tip of that corner. Make sure you don't cut too far, and clip your stitches. But that can help a little bit. Fold this over. Like I said, you might have to finagle it a little bit, but there you go. So there's what that would look like. And again, there it is on the front. So that is how you bind pretty much any angle, and hopefully that helps. Thanks.